A second stimulus check deal is less than 24 hours away, but the guy from Kentucky is chattering more than a chicken. Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Morning's LALATE. Hope you're great and safe. It's Thursday morning. We're almost to the weekend. You can smell the toast grizzling on the griddle. Is that a new verb? You can smell the coffee percolating, and the toast is popping up out of the toaster. Thanks for joining me on a great Thursday morning with great news about the second stimulus package. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, and Mitch McConnell appeared on Morning News and had really a great moment. It was like a Sheree versus Nene episode because, boy, the mudslinging was really shady. I'm going to be getting to that shortly. I have all the quotes. I literally was typing them dictation. But first, let me get to you the latest developments on what is going to get passed, what's holding up the stimulus package, and what is still uncertain. First, this. The second stimulus package deal will go back into negotiations later today. There are four people in the room. Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, Steve MNUCHIN, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer. The deals have been reached as to certain parts of the second stimulus package. Other parts are still apart, no agreement on those, and other parts we simply don't know. So what I'm going to do in this video, because I have a lot to cover, so stay with me, I'm going to go over those things that have been agreed upon, those that have not, and those that are still uncertain. First, what has been agreed upon? The second stimulus check. You will be getting a second stimulus check under the second stimulus package. The check will arrive 7 days after law is enacted by electronic delivery. If you're teed up for electronic delivery, so claims Treasury Secretary Steve MNUCHIN, who ultimately his department sends you the checks. The check will be $1,200 to each individual. There is that uncertainty of the $500 dependent, but all indications suggest that the Republicans have agreed to pay $1,200 for everyone, which is the Democratic proposal. $1,200 if you are a single individual, $1,200 if you're a minor dependent, adult dependent, everyone $1,200. This is really great news. This is different than the first stimulus package, which did not pay adult dependents. This time around, you're getting this check. You're getting a check if you're on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, railroad benefits, or veterans benefits, and it's coming to you in the fastest manner possible. So if you are teed up for electronic delivery for benefits, the date you need to keep track of, and I will be with you, we're going to follow this together, is 7 days after it becomes law. Now, the agreement between these four people in the room that are deciding fish and chicken is not a law group. They don't decide the law. They reach an agreement, and then they send it to the Senate for a vote, and then the president enters into the law. More about that in a second. The next item that seems to be agreed upon by the parties is a rent eviction moratorium. And we have confirmation about this morning. I've been reporting these agreements about the check and the rent eviction moratorium since last Friday. I was the first to really do that. And Nancy Pelosi minutes ago confirmed that there's an agreement upon a rent eviction moratorium for both the tenant and for purposes of the landlord mortgage forbearance. So you can't be kicked out of your apartment because you can't make rent, and you can't lose your home or your building to a bank because of foreclosure. Really great news. Now, one thing that is not agreed upon with that is free rent money, which is different than an eviction moratorium. Nancy Pelosi minutes ago confirmed there's no agreement upon free rent money, which is different than the moratorium. The moratorium is the most important thing because it keeps you in your home right now. The mortgage forbearance is the most important thing because it keeps you in your home and not lose your home to foreclosure. Really great news. So two things done. Third thing that is apparently agreed upon is a loan moratorium for student loans. So if you cannot pay your student loan debts due to principal and interest, that will not be due right yet. There is no agreement upon a loan forgiveness, which is different, that says you never have to pay the loan. That apparently has no agreement as well. Things that are still up in the air that have not been clarified are Food stamps. There's apparently progress on getting food stamps to people, increase of food stamps. Second, there apparently is a movement to getting the second stimulus check teed up like the HEROES Act, in which, listen up, child support is not taken from. The Democrats propose that child support is not taken from the second stimulus check, and it appears that's the movement currently, but we don't have confirmation on it. Next, the next item that is having agreement upon is loan instruments. A new round of PPP money will be coming to small businesses. That was not proposed by the Democrats. The Republicans asked for it, and apparently the Democrats agreed upon it. Third, more money to the post office, especially if you work in the post office, to create a more safe environment. The Democrats had proposed, I think it was like $35 million or $1 billion, $35 million. They brought in the Postmaster General into the meeting yesterday, and he or she said they could do it with $10 million. So the Democrats agreed to reduce the amount of money for that. You see, I have a lot of stuff in this video. It's still jam-packed. Next, FPUC, the big one. The big one that everyone is talking about. The president, the Republicans in the room, and the Democrats have all agreed to $600 a week. The thing that they have not agreed upon is how many weeks of FPUC. So last Friday, I was the first to report to you that there is an agreement upon $600 a week. The problem is the Republicans are still stuck with how many weeks they want to give $600 a week. They initially offered 1 week. No one bought that. Nancy and Chuck said, we're not moving. We're staying at $600 per week all the way into 2021. The Republicans said, no, we're not doing $600 a week all the way to next year. We'll do something different. They counter-offered yesterday at $400 a week to December. The Democrats still said no. What's interesting is that a lot of stuff I've been reporting on this channel is coming to fruition. One of them I reported was states could not do the Republican proposed idea of calculating 70% based upon your 2019 earnings. The Republicans got that. Steve MNUCHIN understood that finally, and so he said he's not going to do this strange calculation. He would just do a number. Hence, they offered $400. The president instructed his team to offer $600, but then backtracked and said, okay, I'll only offer $600 for a few weeks. Next, hazard pay. Don't know. We really don't know the future of hazard pay. Nancy Pelosi had comments about hazard pay minutes ago, so I'm going to be getting to those in a second. Really great news about hazard pay from Nancy's mouth, but we have nothing from the other side. What else is there? There is no agreement upon the amount of money for state and local governments to ensure that they pay their civil employees, to ensure that they have funding, to ensure that they can operate their unemployment offices, to ensure that they can give you grant money for eviction and for rent. There is no agreement upon that one, and that actually is a very big one. There appears to be no agreement upon the liability insurance, Mitch McConnell and same provision, because I thought that was gone. I thought there was an agreement that it's gone, and Mitch talked about it minutes ago. So it looks like he's still pushing for that insane provision. I'll discuss that in a second. Next, the issue of, there was something else. There's so much in here that I'm trying to remember, but let me get to what the two said in this real tirade of words this morning. Mitch McConnell first appeared on CNBC, the leading financial news network on cable, and he was asked about what's going on. Now, ironically, Mitch is not in the room. Mitch is not the individual who is in the room on a daily basis. Every day for 2 hours, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer for the Democrats, and Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows for the White House are in the room negotiating. Mitch McConnell's not there. He's never been invited. Mitch McConnell's own statement this week was that, well, I will agree to whatever the Republicans in the room do. So apparently he has to have some airtime, and he got it this morning. He said that exactly when the deal comes through, I cannot tell you, but I think at some point in the near future. That wording made broadcasters' eyes sort of pop out of their skull. It was exactly the wording that Mitch had over a week ago that said, maybe we'll get to this in a couple of weeks. It made the mouths of viewers drop. It made the initial stock market before the opening drop very suddenly. It was very disconcerting words. Now, what's he saying? He then said the argument is over how much is appropriate at this appropriate juncture. He's again claiming that America doesn't need relief. He's again sitting and saying America's beautiful and wonderful and no one needs relief. But then he said, I'm prepared to support whatever happens. He then slammed the Democrats' proposal and called it a Democratic wish list to get people rich again. Really horrible words, even as we sit here today. Then came Nancy Pelosi. Oh boy, get that cup of coffee and put your feet up, because if you loved Sheree versus Nene with the teeth, fix your teeth, this was nothing like this. This is Emmy equality words. She was interviewed by Jim Cramer, whose questions were really not that good. But at one point, at the very end of the interview, he asked her, can't you both sides agree upon something really at all? We're here for the American, this is Jim Cramer talking, we're here for the American people, we're here to get people relief. I would assume that the other side's going to help you get something for the American people to give them relief. Nancy paused, fixed her scarf, and then said, perhaps you mistake for them for someone who give a damn. Yeah. She said, perhaps you mistake them for someone who gives a damn. She was not mincing her words. She was basically saying, and I'm not even going to paraphrase, I'll just read you the quotes. We're here for the American working families. 3 months ago, we, the Democrats, in the House, passed our legislation, what the majority leader would call a liberal wish list. And it's about families who cannot pay rent, over 20 weeks of 1 million unemployment claims, and still they're not facing the reality. Yeah, I told you this sounds like a great Real Housewives scene. We have to contain and defeat the virus, and without scientists to approach to deal with the virus, we're not going to get anywhere. Then slamming the administration. We want our children to go to school, and we want our parents to learn. Parents need to be earning and children need to be learning, but we cannot do it at the risk of our teachers. It has to relate to the infection rates of the community, and there has to be a calculation for it. If it was actual or virtual or hybrid in-class studying, there's not much difference in the costs, but there's a difference about the risk evaluation. Jim Cramer then asked her what I talked about last night on LALATE, what about executive order? The president is threatening executive order. She said, he can extend the rent eviction moratorium by executive order. Hello, who told you that? Me, yesterday and all this week. The president can extend the eviction moratorium by executive order. The rest he cannot. But you cannot just have a moratorium to have money. We have to have them move to compensate. Now, here's what she's talking about is with the rent issue. She's saying, yeah, we agree, Democrats and Republicans, on a rent eviction moratorium, but you still have to give rent money to the tenants. And that's not just for the renters, it's also for the landlords. They must be able to pay rent to the landlords, and that's coming from the federal government. So here you see she's not moving on rent part of the bill. She's saying it has to be both eviction and rent money. Then she says, if everyone has jobs, everything is better. We have a scientific approach, everything is different. But she says we don't have jobs. Then came the hazard pay words. Again, she didn't use the word hazard pay, but she talked about frontline workers and said frontline workers. She said frontline workers have to be compensated, they have to be happy at work, they have to be safe at work, and you have to value their services. Healthcare workers, transportation, sanitation, and she had a few others, but I was really typing very quickly. This is all typed by dictation, not by, I'm not taking the transcript from CNBC. I'm literally listening to it and typing very quickly. These are people who are employed by states and local government. If they do not have their money, what money are we going to be not paying these people for? They will lose their jobs. Suddenly, the Republicans are deficit hawks. Senators and governors are appealing for help, and no one's helping us. Really incredible words. She was then asked a very actually pointed, targeted question. Jim Cramer said, I see civil unrest occurring if we don't get a stimulus package. Do you see this? She said the picture is bleak, and she said, I don't want to focus on the bleak picture, but she said it is very bleak, and she basically confirmed to Jim Cramer, she sees that happening. But this is why this is her talking again, but this is why we, the Democrats, passed the HEROES Act 3 months ago. And what is important for you to understand is where she's going chronologically on this. Listen carefully. We passed this bill 3 months ago while McConnell pressed the pause button. It shows the difference. We put working families first. We put how much testing with points of care testing. It doesn't cost more to have more testing. If they can open the schools, you can take these tests every week. You have to have these comprehensive tests, which leads to more testing treatment. But it's hard to deal with someone, McConnell, who wants to give a tax break to take a fancy lunch as a way to solve this pandemic. When people and the rest of America is hungry. Wow. And then she said, perhaps you mistake them for someone who gives a damn. They don't believe in governance. They don't believe in helping people. Economists tell us with people who are in need the most, it will be a stabilizer to give them the stimulus right now. Consumer confidence is a good thing. Helping hotels, she talked about hotels and restaurant employees. She talked about this wonderful thing, I'm not going to bore you with it, but decreasing lending rates so that they can get more money to the hotels and restaurants so they can employ more people. Really overwhelming remarks. The great news is that everything that you are hoping for is still being fought for, and that everything you are entitled to is not being thrown to the side. Mark Meadows, who's really been sort of like the Kim Fields of Real Housewives of Atlanta. He doesn't belong in this room. He doesn't belong in these negotiations. He has no idea what he's doing. He's been slammed by Associated Press as really an inept negotiator. Keeps on emerging from these meetings like he's, debuting at the entrance to Celebrity Big Brother. And he's like, we're trillions apart. I don't see this. And if I don't get out of my way, the president's going to issue an executive order, which the president can't. Unemployment numbers out minutes ago, and they are troubling. 20th consecutive week of unemployment claims over 1 million. We saw that coming, I told you yesterday. PUA applications dropped a little bit, dropped by 253,000 to 657, which is no winning remark. So where are we, LALATE? Well, the next 48 hours is going to be a nail-biter. And what I want you to understand is the following. Here's the backstory. Here's the part that I really try to make clear to viewers because it's not inherently clear. No one really explains this in broadcast news. To get a deal, to get a law, this has to happen. We are really on a one-bill track at the moment, the HEROES Act. Why? Because the Republican bill is not going anywhere. So the Democrats really plotted this out correctly. They plotted this out by getting the entire House of Representatives to vote on the HEROES Act and getting approved. Any law has to be approved by both the House and then the Senate, and then signed by the president. So the Democrats got the first step done, as Nancy said, 3 months ago. The Republicans did nothing then. And so last week they introduced a bill to the Senate, which is going to go nowhere by default because it has to go back to the House, and the House is never going to approve it because it's dominated by Democrats. So we have a one-bill track, the HEROES Act. Now, what Nancy has apparently agreed to do with Chuck Schumer is negotiate with Steve Mnuchin, who she also said she has a very good rapport with. Everyone has a good rapport with him. He's a good person, generally, Steve Mnuchin. Sometimes he messes things up, but he's generally a good person. Everyone has a lot of respect for him. And she thought, okay, let me negotiate with Steve Mnuchin to get an agreement, and then hopefully Steve can work Mitch McConnell to get his backing for the purposes of the Senate. Well, Mitch McConnell has not been included. It's clearly an ego hit to Mitch's, huge ego to not be included in any of these negotiations. And so every time there's progress with Nancy and Steve, Mitch not in the club, like a bad 50 Cent song, well, a great 50 Cent song, like a great 50 song lyrics. He's not in the club. He can't get in the club. And he's not in the room. And he wants to stand outside and talk about what he doesn't know what's going on. So he's saying there's not going to be a deal, and maybe in a few months there'll be a deal. He just doesn't know. Toss him aside and ignore him, please. So what happens now is that ironically, and this is really great news, the Republicans really don't have any cards to hold, because at this point, there is a bill in the Senate. It has passed the House, and a lot, not a minor, but a lot of Republicans are in favor of the HEROES Act, the Democratic bill. They have told Mitch McConnell they are not in line with his position. They've told McConnell, and they've actually said, publicly, that they will urge and demand a signing of a bill or vote on a bill by Friday. They are not going to return back to their home states this coming week without a bill signed. And with that, the Democrats are teed up to get the bill potentially passed in the Senate without agreement by MNUCHIN and Meadows. It's that if they have that agreement with MNUCHIN and Meadows, it makes it even easier. Ultimately, what happens here is that the Republicans that are in the Senate, and also the Democrats, next week have one of the most important weeks of their lives. They have to go to their home states and campaign to get reelected. And going back without a bill and without a law and without stimulus and without relief and without money, without food, without an eviction moratorium will be the end of their careers. It'll be as simple as that. It is a done deal. So they don't want that. They want the bill to pass. This is a lot of hogwash, washing around in the mud, and it's going to get passed. They're just trying to drag their feet. Ultimately, a lot of the parts of the bill have been agreed upon. Some parts of the bill are still looming. Some parts of the bill are not agreed upon. There's going to be another meeting between Nancy, Chuck, Steve, and Mark this afternoon. Mark Meadows is going to walk in with a 4-leaf clover and say, "I'm Mr. Meadows with a 4-leaf clover." It's just, it is what it is. And so I want you to stay positive, stay motivated, stay focused, because ultimately there's 2 steps left. The Senate, there's the agreement of these 4 people. Then the Senate has to vote on the bill, which would take 1 to 2 days thereafter, after that agreement of those people. The president signs the bill, then it's law. A lot of stuff. I got it in 20 minutes. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I'm going to have a lot of updates today. The next 48 hours is just going to be update city here. So hit that subscribe. Go to the front of this channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm button right next to it so you get alerts when a new video goes live. Stay motivated, stay focused. Have a great I said Monday. Have a great Thursday morning. And join me at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time for Afternoons LA Late. As always, have a great day.